Hello students, good evening. This is the video on the poem The Well by Padma Sachdev, and originally it is written in Dogri as Khoo, but this poem is translated by Iqbal Masood. So let us start, and yes, before starting I would like to suggest you to write keywords whenever you read anything. If you keep notebook with you and if you note down keywords, so then believe me, there is coding in your mind, right? So I'll be reading and explaining the poem, so please note down the keywords. And main thing is, as this is a story, right? So here you should note down character, setting and action. So let us start. The Well, originally written in Dogri as Khoo, is celebrated poem by the prominent Indian poet and novelist Padma Sachdeva. She was poet and novelist. The English translation, often titled The Moment of Courage, right? So please, you should remember the title also. Basically this is Dogri, and in Dogri that is Khoo, and English translation is, that is The Moment of Courage, was translated from the original Dogri by the noted film critic and writer Iqbal Masood. What's the original author is Padma Sachdeva. You should remember all these facts. That's the original author is Padma Sachdeva, a Sahitya Academy Award winning poet, recognized as the first modern woman poet of Dogri language. Very important, first modern woman poet of Dogri language. And translator is Iqbal Masood, who was well regarded for his literary and film criticism, right? So this is the basic facts or introduction of the poem. What are the themes covered here? The poem is deeply symbolic, using the image of a well. So well is used as an image. What's the source of life and water? Well is the source of life in water, but now associated with a tragic past accident involving a calf. It's a character, we can say. To explore themes of repression, desire, thirst, memory and the courage. What are the themes? Repression, desire, thirst, memory and the courage. Required to break free from social constraints. Okay, now significance. The poem is frequently studied in Indian literature courses such as the BA English Literature curriculum because of its evocative use of imagery, right? And its powerful subtext regarding women's longing and resilience. Important. So here, this is the significance of poem. It serves as a commentary on the unspoken aspects of life and quiet, persistent bravery required to reclaim one's own desire in the face of communal or social taboos. Important. I'm repeating. It serves as a commentary on the unspoken aspects of life and the quiet, persistent bravery required to reclaim one's own desires in the fact of communal or social taboos. Social taboos, actually. So that's the communal taboos or social taboos. So here it serves as a commentary on the part which is not spoken clearly, right? Which is not uh, uttered, right? But that's a quiet part which we live and which is the part of our life. So it needs persistent bravery, right? Required to reclaim one's own desire in the face of social taboos. Now, the text is widely recognized in anthologies of modern Indian poetry, and the translation by Iqbal Masood is the standard version referenced in academic context for English readers. So, let us move and see the summary. To understand the well as a narrative, it is best to view it is as a story of woman, right? So however this is a poem, but this is the story of a woman grappling with the ghost of her village past, right, and her own. So a woman who is grappling with the ghost of her village past and her own. Here is the summary. Let us see. In a quiet village where life revolves around the daily ritual of fetching water, there stands a well. So that's a daily routine that people fetch water from the well. For most, this well is more than just stone and water. It is a place of shadows. So that's a well was very important to the villagers years ago, but that's a what author is saying, that it is a place of shadows. Why? Because years ago a tragedy occurred. What tragedy? That forever altered the way of villagers looked at the water. So that what happened actually, they were trying to find out alternative, because water is necessary and village, that was the well is very important, and that time the main resource of water was that well, which was situated situated in the middle of the village. But what happened? A young calf, innocent fumbling, fell into the depth of well and perished. This is the main reason of the poetry of the story. There was a young calf who was fell into the water, into the well, and died. The water, once a source of life and nourishment, was now tainted in the minds of people. So now they thought that because of cow and soul of cow, this water is polluted. They whispered of the death, decay, and impurity. Fear took root, and soon a collective silence fell over the village. So they were frightened, right? And then soon collective silence fell over the village. So there was a one kind of silence. Now the well remained, but it was shunned. Well was there, but then people are stopped to take water from the village. It was avoided. People began to carry their thirst elsewhere. So they were compelled to bring water from far situated well, avoiding the very place that once sustained them. That was the source of water, that was the source of life, but now they avoid that well. The speaker of the poem, a woman living under the weight of these societal superstitions. Who is the speaker of the poem? That a woman. And she is living under the weight of these societal superstitions. So that was the superstition according to that lady who is narrating story to us. Observes this fear every day. So she thinks that why they have fear, and she watches as the others turn away. So she 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 was observing that people are turning away, they don't, and bound by the memory of the calf. And she noted down that people are bound by the memory of the calf and the rigid rules of community. And she has noted down the rules of community. She too knows the story. She too carries the memory of the tragedy. After all, she was the part of the society. So she also knows the story, and she has the memory of tragedy. But as she stands before the well, she begins to feel a different kind of thirst. So, as she was standing before the well, so she was very thirsty that particular day. A deep internal yearning that has nothing to do with water and everything to do with her own soul. So that was the feeling, that she feels that feeling, internal yearning that has nothing to do with the water. So that feeling was in her mind, that water is pure and everything to do with her own soul. She realizes that she is living a life defined by someone else's fear. Very important. She was That lady was rational, and she was thinking that, very important point, that she realizes that she is living a life defined by someone else's fear. The impurity they speak of is merely the story they tell to keep life predictable and safe. So, what kind of impurity? They speak of merely a story they tell to keep life predictable and safe. In a moment of quiet, singular defiance, she makes a choice. She takes pause, and then she decides. She acknowledges the tragedy of past, but she refuses to let it hold her captive. Okay, there is tragedy, might be tragedy, but then she refuses to let it hold her captive. But I uh, cannot be captive by that particular tragedy. That is done, that's a past. She decides to face the well. She said that how long we can avoid, and then she refuses to let it hold her captive. That tragedy, I cannot be captive. I cannot be fixed with that tragedy. So she decides to face the well. So she said that how long we can avoid, we have to take out the solution. As she reaches for the water, she is not just quenching her physical thirst, she is performing an act of profound courage. So she was very much thirsty, physical thirst, but then she has to show, because she was going against the whole village, like villagers. So it needs profound courage. She is choosing to reclaim her own voice, and she thinks that I have to listen my own voice and her own desires, breaking the seal of silence that has gripped her village. And she said, I have to break the silence. In that moment, the well is no longer a site of death. The moment she decides right? This is very important. Breaking her seal of silence that has gripped her village, and in that particular moment when she broke the silence, the well is no longer a sight of death. डर के आगे जीत है, because she has broken that idea, broken that restrictions, and becomes the place of awakening. And now she is aware, right? Now she is uh, awakened. To capture the essence of the well, that is very important, that she has broken the silence, she has broken the rules which are made by villagers, rules of fear. So this is the story which was covered by the author Padma Sachdev in her poetry The Well. Now the same we can read in this way also. So I am reading for you, that is the story of the village and the forbidden well. So let us read together. This is the story is over, but then in another way, because I have taken out another perspective of the same story. So let us read this way also. In a small quiet village, life flowed with the predictable rhyme of seasons. At the heart of the village stood an ancient stone well. So that's a, there was a well, right? Well in the in the village, right? For as long as anyone could remember, this well was village's lifeblood once upon a time, until the day the silence was shattered. That silence was shattered, and that's why it was the lifeblood to them. Once tragic afternoon, a young clumsy calf, right, wandered too close to the edge and trembled into the dark, cold depth. The accident was sudden, and despite the village's effort, the calf could not be saved. And then the villagers were trying to save the life of calf, but despite lot of efforts, calf was not saved. In that moment, the well, once a symbol of life, transformed in the eyes of villagers. It became the site of sorrow, a place of decay, and a vessel of impurity. So many things the villagers thought about that particular village well. A collective unspoken pact settled over the village. Unspoken pact, which was not verbally, not said, no rules, no document or something, but that was unspoken pact settled over the village not to use this well. The elders stopped drawing water from it. Mothers warned their children to stay away. So these are the activities, right? The well became a taboo, a ghost that everyone acknowledged but no dare to touch, because now it has become the taboo, and that is why no one has dared to touch it. They would rather walk long distances to other inferior sources than drink from the water that had claimed the life of the calf. And then they have to fetch water from another well which was situated far away. The village continued, but a strange quiet thirst took hold of everyone. They were thirsty not just for water but for the freedom to be themselves, a freedom they had abandoned the moment they accepted the village's collective fear. So, for the freedom to be themselves, a freedom they had abandoned the moment they accepted the village's collective fear. So, the village continued, but a strange quiet thirst took hold of everyone, and they were thirsty not just for water but for the freedom to be themselves, a freedom they had abandoned the moment they accepted the village's collective fear. So that fear, they want to remove that fear, right? They are not thirsty only thirsty for water, but they were thirsty to live a peaceful life without fear. Now years passed, and the speaker of our story grew up in the shadow of this superstition. So then, this who is narrating story, a woman, right? She grew up in the shadow of this superstition, and she watched the women line up at other wells. So one day she watched that women are standing line up at the other wells, their shoulders heavy with the burden of tradition, their eyes avoiding the forbidden stone circle in the center of the village. They were going other wells, right? And she felt their thirst, and she felt her own deep burning dryness that no other water could quench. And she was thinking, why not? Why people are avoiding this well? One day, the sun hung heavy and hot in the sky. It was very hot day, and her throat parched. And then she was very much thirsty. The woman walked toward the forbidden well, and she could not stop herself, and she went to that well. The village fell quiet as they saw her approach. So village fell quiet as they saw her approach, because they villagers did not have that courage. They saw the impurity. They had spent a lifetime fearing. For a long time they were fearing from that well. They saw the ghost of the calf. But as she stood at the edge, she did not see a cursed place. But that lady, she went to the well, prohibited, like a forbidden well, and then what she feels that she did not see a cursed place. So she does not have that cursed feeling, and she saw the truth. The calf had died, but life had continued. See, poor calf, he had died, but life had continued. The fear was not in the water, the fear was in the minds. Very important point. With a steady hand, she lowered the bucket, and then the rope hissed against the stone, a sound like a whisper of rebellion. Right? She pulled it up, the water shimmering, clear and cold, very pure water, right? As she lifted the bucket to her lips, The villagers held their breath. Something wrong is going to be done, expecting a curse. And the villagers were thinking that she will, because she will have to pay for it. But as she drank, she felt only the cool relief of truth. Right? Cool relief of truth. She felt. And she had broken the spell of collective trauma, because she had a dare, and she had broken the spell of collective trauma in that single act of drinking. She reclaimed her autonomy. Very important. And she showed them all that fear only holds power. Fear only holds power if you agree to be afraid. If you feel that fear, then if you agree to be afraid, then fear only holds power. Means if you feel there is fear, then fear will dominate you, right? She walked away, leaving the well behind, not as the site of death, but as testament to the quiet, fierce courage of one woman who refused to let the story from the past dictate her thirst. Important. What? That finally, not she showed them all that fear only holds power if you agree to be afraid. She walked away, leaving the well behind, not as a site of death, but as a testament to the quiet, fierce courage of one woman who refused to let a story from the past dictate her thirst. And she is satisfied, and then she quenched her thirst, and here the story is finished. So this is the beautiful story which is written by Padma Sachdeva, right? That was the dialect Dogri, and Dogri is the famous, like is spoken in the area of the region and Himalaya, right? So Padma Sachdev has written a number of poetry in Dogri, and this poetry is translated by Iqbal Masood. So here, actually this is a poem, but poem come a story, right? So I have read for you, and I would like to listen from you that what's your opinion on this poetry. Like we have number of social taboos, right? And where is the mind without fear, and the head is held high. So we need to have courage. We need to have uh, we should have courage to face the realities, right? And if you remember, I remember that advertisement of Mahendra Singh Dhoni, डर के आगे जीत है. This is the only message of this poem, that you have to face, and every walk of life you will face different kind of situation, different kinds of taboos, different kinds of social constraints. But if it is honest step, if you are honest, so you need to have courage for truth, right? Courage for taking first step to break such such taboos, right, or social constraints which are harmful to the society, right? So this is something, this is the message of this poem. I hope you got idea about this poem come story. And so here I wind up. Thank you so much, and your suggestions and feedbacks are always most welcome. You can write to me in the comment box, or you can personally write to me on my number 9425349521. And one more thing, that I have made video on Hindi version also, but next video I'll be making on the question answer. So where I am going to speak critical comments and other aspects of this poem. Thank you so much. God bless you.